March. The day's date is March 1st, 2022. Time is 9 a.m. All commissioners are present along with the county auditor, coordinator, and representation from the county attorney's office. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excuse me. All right, amendments to the agenda.
Mr. Chair, we have a request to move the Public Works topic to right after consent items.
Okay, so we'd be moving Public Works 9.1 and 9.2 up to right after the consent agenda items. Any other amendments? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda with the movement of those two items.
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kircher. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consent items.
Today we have meeting minute approval, February 15th, 2022, retirement home health aid, gambling permit, Sauk Valley Gobblers, Clarissa Ballroom 1 year 3.2 malt liquor license, Clarissa Ballroom 1 year wine license, Clarissa Ballroom 1 year setup license, Clarissa Ballroom 1 year dance license, Diamond Point 1 year liquor license, Greystone Golf Course 1 year liquor license, Head of the Lakes Resort 1 year 3.2 malt liquor license, Head of the Lakes Resort 1 year wine license, Head of the Lakes Resort 1 year setup license, Rainbow Lodge seasonal 3.2 malt liquor license, Rainbow Lodge seasonal wine license, Rainbow Lodge 1 year setup license, Rody's Midway Gas Bar and Grill Incorporated 1 year liquor license, Rock Tavern LLC 1 year liquor license, Sauk Neck Campground 1 year liquor license, and Thunder Lodge Incorporated 1 year liquor license.
Okay, you've heard and seen the list of the consent items. I would look for a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Becker, second by Newman. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public Works, Lauren.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First, I appreciate and I thank you guys for amending the agenda for me this morning. I truly appreciate that. Our first item on the agenda this morning for Public Works is a request to award a construction contract for a 2022 bituminous highway construction projects. Our options are to approve the attached resolution or do not approve the attached resolution. And a recommendation is to approve the attached resolution awarding a contract to Central Specialties Incorporated of Alexandria, Minnesota for their low bid of $5,261,696.41.
Okay, you've seen the board action for the approval of the bituminous projects in Todd County. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I just want to make a couple of comments that this was below our estimate by about $300,000. I think we timed it about perfect as we got in kind of before this unfortunate occurrences over in Ukraine, where I believe the prices would probably jump 5 to 10%. So we believe this is a very good contract and we got really good prices. So we're consider ourselves very fortunate.
And just a comment, just looking at the bids, they're so close. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen all these bids so close to
Yeah,
dollar
the
amount.
numbers are right tight where we really want them, right close to our estimate. We're very fortunate we got 6 bidders, and I think we're very fortunate of the timing. So you're right, Commissioner Becker, these were really good, concise bids.
Mr. Chair, if I may. Lauren, is there any other projects or issues that we could maybe speed up a little bit because of the inflation of fuel costs?
We looked at a couple of them, to amend the contract, to add those in as kind of a change order, but they were what we determined, above and beyond what we should amend a contract to. Specifically one on County Road 73 on the northwest corner. There's some other pipe work and grading work that we have to do to that project before we just do the overlay. So if we did the overlay, we'd have to come back and do the pipes, and
Yeah.
that just
Okay.
doesn't make sense. So
All right,
we did look at that, and I'm glad you brought that up.
thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, our second item on the agenda is just an informational topic. Just wanted to make note to the board that we did apply with your permission to Region 5 Development Commission for a 2026 project on our County Road 2. And we were successful in obtaining a federal grant for fiscal year 2026 in the amount of $916,003. So we'll be adding that to our 5-year plan. And we'll start work on developing that project for fiscal year 2026. So we're pretty
Awesome.
happy to bring that grant here.
Wonderful. Helps out.
Absolutely, every bit helps. So
Yep.
with that, I appreciate it and thank you very much.
Thank you, Lauren. Great River Regional Library. Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for the time today. I'm Karen Punsack. I'm Executive Director for Great River Regional Library. I have with me Amanda Wierspan, who is the Library Services Coordinator for Great Eagle and Long Prairie, and Kathy Parrish, who is the Library Services Coordinator for Eagle Bend and Staples. So all of your libraries are represented here today.
Nice.
We wanted to share with you some highlights from the past year on library activity. In the packet, we included our annual report. You can see we had some fantastic things happening across the region. One of the big stories last year was the digital usage and how that increased. That started with COVID. We had seen digital usage actually kind of plateauing out at the end of 2019, and then with the shutdown in 2020, it really took off again. So if you go to, I think it's the second page of that annual report, you can see the numbers. It's on the left-hand side if you're able to see it. It actually shows we had 13,000 different ebook patrons last year. That's a lot of people when you think about it. I mean, that's like half of Todd County. So it was a lot of people using that ebook, and those aren't people we necessarily see in the building. So it's kind of shifted usage a little bit. But at the same time, last year, even though a year ago we were not able to really gather yet in groups, we actually saw most of our usage come back. Most of our libraries are circulating at least 75 to 80% of what they were in 2019. And some of those libraries are actually exceeding those numbers at the end of last year. So we expect that trend will continue. Amanda and Kathy will talk in a little bit about some of the reasons people are coming back to their libraries. I think the other thing I want to highlight is we had two really big changes for 2022 that we're just starting to see the results of. So we went fines-free on all library materials at the beginning of the year. We had anticipated that our revenues would go down quite a bit, but what we actually saw is even though fines have gone down, our miscellaneous receipts revenue line actually came in about 2 to 3 times higher than we anticipated. Part of that was from lost materials being paid for, and part of that is our print-to-go services, which Amanda will talk about in a little bit. We receive a lot of revenue from copying, and because we have wireless options for people now, it's much easier for them to do that when they come to the library. So on the one side, we are seeing a lot of usage of that new service. On the other side, our computer users have gone down a little bit because you can now come into the library and use your own device to print, and you don't have to log on to a library computer. So that number is higher than it was back in 2020 when they weren't available the full year. but it isn't going to be nearly as high as it was in 2019. 54,000 uses across the entire region, though. All of our public libraries still have public access computers available for free. The other big initiative that we have yet to see the results of is the additional open hours in 27 of our locations. So we added hours in all of the libraries in Todd County, thanks to Amanda and Kathy's work and their staff. And that has meant more consistent schedules and more open days in many of our locations. So we're hopeful that that will continue to grow our activity. But as you look at the year-end numbers here, you can see that it was a pretty good year, considering it wasn't really a normal year yet. So we're really happy with how that's turned out. And Amanda will tell you a little bit more about Print-to-Go and some other things that are happening in Long Prairie and Gray Eagle.
Hi, I'm Amanda Wursman. I'm the Library Services Coordinator in Long Prairie and Gray Eagle. And Long Prairie branch, we see a lot of Print-to-Go. As Karen mentioned, patrons will come in with their smartphone, and we help them, we assist them to print a variety of documents from there. And it is a strong asset, I believe, to our community that we have that service available. Patrons are always very grateful, whether it's, you never know what causes it, but it's a wonderful service, as I mentioned. Fun things out in the community, we have done story strolls in Harmony Park around in Long Prairie here, and well received again. Set them up outside, people can walk around, they're out there all day. That was very well received, and we did it until we could no longer get the stakes in the ground due to the dry weather last summer. But it was a wonderful way to provide a program to people when we couldn't do as much indoors. We also have seen wonderful participation in the summer and winter reading programs. And the summer program is based for children, teens, young adults, encouraging the reading throughout the summer months when school is no longer in session, encouraging that to continue. And winter reading program we just ended actually this year, and we have had wonderful participation there as well. And so it's been good to see the people back in the library. They can participate from home as well with their ebooks and Beanstack. We have an app that they can participate without even stepping foot in the library. And so it's been good to see people participating.
So I'm Kathy Parrish. I'm from the Eagle Bend and Staples Public Libraries. And so we are excited to hopefully get back to all of our regular programming. We're working in slowly, but we've got our monthly story times again, our book clubs, our tech time. People are taking advantage of that. They come in and get tech help if they can't figure out a device. We had our first legacy program 2 weeks ago in Staples. I brought in the children's author, Kevin Lovegreen. And I don't know how we made them fit, but we had 94 people come in. He was awesome. He kept the attention of over 50 kids for over an hour. It was amazing. The response afterwards was just fantastic. People were so excited that we were able to offer this type of program. I also had Andrew Walsh. He performed at the Hilltop Kitchen. We love working with them up there because then the seniors do not have to try to get to us. They can go to the Hilltop, have their lunch, and also have a performance. So I try to work with them. I've also been collaborating with the schools. We're going to bring a children's author into both Bertha Hewitt Elementary and Staples Motley. That one is coming in March. And I think that'll be a good turnout for the kids. They're pretty excited already about it. When we were closed, a couple things though we did do, which I think will continue to be really good. We were able to offer free park passes. So that was working with the DNR. It's between June 1st of 2021 to June 30th of 2022. You can come into the library. It's kind of when they're available, if the pass is there, you can check it out for a week and you can visit any Minnesota State Park free. They went over really well last year, all the way up until it got cold. We had a lot of people who never been to the library before, but heard about the park passes and were eager to come in, looking for something to do, you know, because COVID, you were restricted to what to do. And the hot spots, which we started during COVID, they continue to be checked out quite a bit by people. They do enjoy having that internet if they can afford it. So yeah, we're getting back to where we were. We're excited to hopefully not go backwards again.
Credit to Amanda and Kathy. I mean, it was a really challenging year, but I think the thing they're not telling you about is just keeping the desk staffed has been also a challenge. Amanda took on an additional library last year. She had been managing Long Prairie, and with Jennifer Shattuck's resignation, she took on Gray Eagle as well. So we just filled those positions, but just getting people hired and filled and making sure everyone's healthy and the library is open. Credit to them for making all of the other things happen too. So we appreciate Todd County's support of their libraries. We're really proud of the work that we're able to do in your communities. And if you have any questions for us about the library or the past year, we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Questions or comments, commissioners? Sounds like you're doing a great job.
Thanks. And we're really excited to work with Commissioner Kneisel, who's just joined the Great River Board, and want to thank Commissioner Kircher for his 9 years of service on the board as well. It's a better library because of your work there, so thank you.
Well, I kind of felt like left out because all the great things Dave did for the library, she was talking about that, I don't know how much money he gave her to say them things.
Well, we'll come back this next meeting and we'll talk about all the things that Gary Kneigelsel has done for Great River. I'll have to remember
All the
that.
headaches I gave her.
All right, thank you so
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
County Auditor Treasurer.
Today I have to approve the commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $46,089.95.
Okay, we've seen the board action for the commissioner warrants, total $46,089.95. Looking for a motion to approve.
So move.
Motion by Becker, second.
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
The next item then is the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $29,718.17.
Okay, you've seen the board action for the Health and Human Service warrants, total $29,718.17. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kircher, discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yep.
Commissioner Kircher?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Next item then is the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $51,458.42.
Okay, you've heard the board action for the Health and Human Services SSIS warrants. Total amount, $51,458.42. Would entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Motion by Newman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker, discussion? Hearing none, roll call?
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
All right, the next item we have then is to approve to set up a new American Heritage National Bank checking account for estate probates. And this is, a little bit of the background is, at February 15th, 2022 work session, discussion was held about the HHS department moving forward to establish a process in initiating estate probate for deceased individuals with a medical assistance claim in limited situations. Part of this process includes setting up a new checking account and adding funds to the account to be used as working capital when needed to support the expenses of probating an estate. Funds will be utilized when the estate has no readily available cash assets and payments need to be made for ongoing running of the property such as electric, fuel bills. All monies used on behalf of an estate will be reimbursed to the county upon completion of the probate when estate assets are approved by the judge to be distributed. Your options are to approve the setup of the new American Heritage National Bank checking account for estate probate or not approve. The recommendation is to approve the setup of the new American Heritage National checking account for estate probates.
Okay, you've heard the board action for the approval of the new American Heritage National Bank checking account for probates. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, can we have a little discussion first?
Sure.
Just a question I have on, it says adding funds to the account. Do we have funds to put in the account, or is that as we go?
We would put $25,000 from the,
Okay, because it doesn't say budgeted or anything, so I was just wondering where that was coming from, so,
and it will be a pass-through, it will go.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Becker. Any further discussion?
I do. Is there any instance where you could actually come out on a minus on a probate or not?
Not do any probates for
Okay. Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next item then we have following that is to authorize directors designate to establish individual checking accounts for estates. Again, the background, we talked about setting this up. And so to do this, the director's designing needs to be appointed at the start of each probate that is initiated, who will be also named as the estate administrator. Part of the estate administrator's role is to establish an account for the estate's funds to be deposited to and payments made against. The account will be closed at the end of each probate once the judge has authorized the final disposition of the estate assets and the probate action is completed. As part of the strong internal control procedures, 2 signatures will be required on any payments made from these types of accounts. Your options are to authorize the director designee to establish individual checking accounts for estates that the county is initiating or do not. And it is our recommendation to have this director's designee to establish individual checking accounts for estates that the county is initiating.
Okay, you've heard the board action to authorize directors designate for the checking accounts for estates. I would entertain a motion to approve.
I move for discussion.
Motion by Kircher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just to back up to the previous one, is my impression as I read this, that it'd be one checking account, but now as I read this, there will be individual checking accounts per estate. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So the first one should probably say that we authorize the setup of checking accounts. If I am,
The second, board action that you have before you, each of those accounts would be, so the name on that account would be, county.
okay,
And so that is part of the requirements for estate probate actions, is that you keep that money in a separate account for each.
okay. I understand that. I was just trying to clarify the first one where it said, it was in my mind that we're just setting up an account, but we actually will be setting up multiple accounts per estate. We're gonna have per estate accounts, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr.
First
Chair,
one too is just to establish that we're going to reach out to American Heritage between our two offices to set
Yeah,
up
I
an
understand that,
individual
but-
account. And then underneath that one account will be several accounts.
Understood, but when I read the first one, it's, to me in my mind says just one account. It's not plural. That's a little bit of wordsmithing on my part, but it just wasn't clear that we were gonna set up multiple accounts, so.
And the difference, the first board action, that account will remain open versus the other accounts will open and then that one will always.
There'll always be
remain
one,
open.
okay. All right, I just wanted to understand it a little more, so, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Mhm.
Did legal counsel review this?
Mr. Chair, we talked about it during the meeting was it last meeting?
Yeah.
And I believe, talking about it afterwards, yeah, it passed muster. This is a really good idea, and it's my understanding that the director's designee, by this action, will have the authority then to open up the separate accounts in the name of the various estates, right? Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could, who, and I think we discussed this at the work session last week, who are going to be the signees of the two signees?
Oh, the two,
Yes,
the checking account?
yes.
That will be, the three of us, Denise, Jackie, or myself, and then on the estate ones, would be the fourth
Okay,
as part of it.
okay.
She would be preparing.
And then my suggestion would be is to put your titles down and not your names. You know, I think we've done that through the CARES Act and whatever, is to put, you know, your title and not a name.
And we actually keep our physical signature
Okay,
so that they have
that available.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next item then is to ratify the MCCC Triman Professional Services Agreement for IFS system support. The background is Minnesota County Computer Cooperative in managing entity for the county owner users of the integrated financial system program along with Triman. This is a contract renewal effective January 1, 2022 through December 31st, 2024, with continuance provisions. The user group has voted to approve the contract, and each county is required to ratify the agreement. The agreement and ratification statements are attached to review. Options are to ratify the contract agreement or do not, and the recommendation is to ratify the IFS System Support MCCC Triman Professional Services Agreement, and it is a budgeted item.
Okay, you've heard the board action in regards to the ratification of the Minnesota CCC Triman Agreement for the IFC support system. Is there a motion to approve?
Also move for discussion.
Bircher motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion?
Why isn't there a dollar amount in there then?
I don't know if it's in the letter or not. Chris, do you know?
Oh, 18.
Oh, right here.
Sure.
And membership
But it
fee.
should be in the
Yeah.
board action if we're gonna.
I didn't prepare this board action. I apologize. We can amend it and add it to the financial implications and put it over in the comments over here if you'd like.
Is it the total
We
of
can
those
do
two
that.
numbers that were down there, Denise? Is it like 18 and 12?
Must be that.
1,800 split by 900 per office, 1,800 per county. The new
And then the
will
one
be
lower,
paying full membership as approved by the user group.
the enhancement fund annual fee thing, are we
It's like
part of
we
that?
have,
Oh, there you go.
yeah. We'll get down here to Todd County here in a second. Sorry about that. So, looks like Todd County here is the 6585 and 5320 for a total of 11,900. So it was for CMHS support and then auditor treasurer support. Those were the two categories. in our columns. In case you were wondering what they were for. Go back down here, so. But we can add that to the comment line. and
thank
amend
you.
that for you. Yep.
Mr. Chair, I think Denise, you noted that it was an increase from the previous
Yes,
year.
yep.
Any other discussion? So we'll add in the dollar amount of the 11,905 to the board action.
We will do that.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried.
All right, so then our next topic today is the redistricting overview. And I'll have Jolene come up and present that.
With a
On the election.
with a plethora of knowledge.
Plethora, that's a very good word.
Mhm.
Morning, Commissioner.
Thank you, Jolene.
You'll have to tell me where you want to go.
Just keep scrolling down, the presentation is behind.
Okay.
All right, so as promised, at the last board meeting, the state has fulfilled their part of the process for redistricting. So our office is bringing forward a review of where we're at and where we need to head here in a short period of time. And we're here to answer your questions as well. So first of all, I'd like to go over, well, what is redistricting? I think there's a lot of thoughts and connotations about what redistricting means, but it is a process. And even if we don't redraw lines, we still have to establish or reestablish what they are. So it's a process that we have to go through because we are a government entity, to reestablish or define our boundaries of our election districts, which is done after the completion of every census, every 10 years, and a year ending in 2. The goal of redistricting is just to ensure that there's equal representation of the populations within each district that's served. We're required to go through this process, but we're not necessarily required to change anything depending on if we meet statutory rules. So we'll start at the top. Per the census numbers here, the 2020 apportionment of the federal districts has happened, and the federal authority utilized the census counts to determine how many federal seats are assigned to each state. There had been predictions in the past, recent past, that Minnesota could potentially lose a U.S. representative seat, but we were able to hold on to our 7th seat for the state of Minnesota. However, we received the very last seat in the apportionment to receive to maintain our 7th seat. How did this happen? It was saved by 8,739 people counted in 2020, and by 26 people counted in 2010, and 26 more counted in 2020. So we just made it to save our 7th seat in the state of Minnesota. Okay. So after that, the feds named how many districts we would have here in Minnesota. After that, the state of Minnesota is then charged with the task of determining how the state districts are to be apportioned. Due to lack of the agreeance by our state legislature, which matches past precedent, unfortunately, a special redistricting panel was appointed by the Minnesota Supreme Court to consider all of the submitted plan proposals for these federal and state boundaries. The panel reached their decision and released it on February 15th with their final orders, which then now ignites the redistricting process to begin on the local levels. Details about the final order, the reasonings for their decisions, and all the maps can be found on the links that I have on those slides there for your study. Okay. So the federal districts of the 7 seats that were apportioned to Minnesota, the special districting panel had the task then of balancing out the population sizes of those districts. The size of Congressional District 7, which is what Todd County resides in, we are still in the same district, however, the size of the district grew. They had to make it larger in order to balance the populations, okay? But we will still continue to be served by Representative Fishbach. The next step of the special redistricting panel was to determine the legislative districts for the state districts. So The first level is the state senate districts, and if we scroll down to zoom in here to Todd County's area on this map, go down one more page, please, Denise. Todd County is now assigned to District 5. Formerly, we were part of District 9, which is currently being served by Senator Gazelka. He will continue to serve in that role until the end of this year. The elections of this year, Todd County residents will now vote for a senator named under District 5. Okay. The next layer to that is the state house districts. Formerly, Todd County was in Districts 9A and B. We had 2 of these house districts within our county borders. Due to redistricting now, we are served only by 1 state house seat in district number 5B. Okay? And those seats currently are held by Poston and Krusha, and the future will remain to be seen. They'll remain in their seats till the end of the year, just like Senator Gazelka.
Poston announced he's not gonna run again.
Yep, due to the state redistricting, I'm sure there'll be a lot of news media rhetoric on who's going to intend to refile or not, depending on where these lines were moved across the state. Okay. So one would be inclined to think then next the county is the next ones that should be doing their procedures for redistricting. However, that's not the case. The cities and townships jump ahead of us in this procedural order. So the cities and townships of Todd County will need to get their pencils out here quickly, as their redistricting resolutions must be completed by March 29th, according to statute. Our office has already sent out a packet of information to them electronically and by regular mail for them to study and implement. Each of our 40 municipalities will need to pass a resolution then to reaffirm their boundaries and reaffirm their polling locations. At this time, our office has not been made aware that any of our precincts' polling locations are going to change. They just need, most likely, to just reaffirm what has been in place, okay? The county will then rely on that information to determine the composition of the county commissioner districts. We have to use their precincts to do that. So the next step on the journey is the county redistricting process. County governments must redistrict their commissioner districts after every federal census to meet the requirements, every year ending in 2, and it can be done in one of 2 forms. We can either reestablish the existing commissioner districts if they meet the statutory requirements, or we can draw new commissioner district boundaries to make them conform to the statutes as well. The county's redistricting resolution must be adopted by April 26th. So as we look at the census data information from our current precinct and municipal boundaries on record, you can see across the county that there has been some shifts in different areas. The overall population of Todd County did increase from the 2010 census numbers to 2020 by 367, but not all areas of the county are shifting the same. Different areas of the county adjusted differently. A thing to note is the average population that we need to meet within a district is 5,052 in size. So what's next? The question our office has been hearing often in the last couple weeks is, does the county have to redistrict? Yes. Do we have to change any of our district's composition? And the answer to that is not necessarily. What forces us to change a district's composition is Minnesota statute. And when we apply the rules of Minnesota statute, there's 2 rules we have to take into consideration. First is the 10% rule, which says that a district's overall population can't vary more than 10% of the average of all the districts in the county. And the majority of the districts can't have the minority of the population. Okay? As our office studied those numbers multiple times, and reaffirm for ourselves, Todd County is not required to change our current district composition to remain compliant with these two rules. If we would look at changing any district or looking at our current district's compositions, some tests and qualifications of a district's good composition would be population's equality. How close to zero variance difference from the average can we have our populations in each district? How compact are they? They need to remain contiguous. We can't have any islands or peninsulas. We shouldn't have anything meeting at a point in a corner. They should be sharing a full side boundary with the neighboring precinct, and equal protection for all of our voters. These are the things that we're gonna think about as we make that final decision of what our redistricting order will be. So what is the next step? Well, the Todd County Board is encouraged to hold a public hearing to discuss all plan proposals. Statute specifically requires that there needs to be a 3-week public notice of that before that hearing can happen. And then the intent after that would be to bring a final redistricting resolution for your consideration and adoption on the April 19th meeting to make that April 26th deadline. And to complete the circle all the way to the end, the County Auditor Treasurer's Office will then take whatever redistricting order resolution you adopt, and we will publish those new lines according to statute requirements. In order to be ready to publish our notice of filing, that needs to go in for all the federal, state, and county offices no later than May 3rd. It has to be published by that date, so we have to be at least a week, if not 2 ahead of that with our decisions to get them published to meet publication dates, because the filing for the offices opens on May 17th. So which county commissioner districts are open for filing really depends on the final redistricting resolution you all choose to adopt. Are there any questions I could answer?
Questions? Okay, thanks for all the information.
Thank you.
All right, then, if we're done with that one, we can move on to the,
Nope.
oh,
One, my dear.
you have one more?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm leaving you behind. So Todd County redistricting public hearing to set the date, time, and location. We have the background Jolene just gave us, that Todd County is required to publish a notice at minimum 3 weeks in advance of the public hearing regarding meetings where redistricting is to be considered pursuant to Minnesota Statute 375.025 Subdivision 1. This notice should also state where copies of the current County Commissioner District Plan are available and provide a deadline for submission of alternate plan options for consideration. The recommendation is to set the Todd County redistricting public hearing for April 5th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. in the county boardroom and direct the county auditor treasurer to publish the attached legal notification as provided in Minnesota Statute 375.025. And this one will take a motion.
Okay, you've heard the board action requesting a date be set for April 5th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. in the county boardroom. Regards to the public hearing for redistricting. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Motion by Becker, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion?
That's during our regular meeting time, correct?
That's correct.
And we have to have this even if we're not redistricting, is that correct?
Correct, because the public has the opportunity, Mr. Chair, to submit plan proposals as well,
Oh.
as well as the county board could submit proposals
Wow,
as well.
interesting. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Finance Committee.
Today we bring forward the ARPA SLFRF allocation to revenue loss category. The background on this, the U.S. Treasury has adopted their final rule on January 6th of 2022 for the use of the ARPA funds. The final rule included a provision which allows recipients to elect a standard allocation up to $10 million under the revenue loss category. Electing the standard allocation of funds into the revenue loss category allows for greater flexibility in the use of funds for government services. It streamlines the reporting and eliminates the requirement of recipient monitoring. Recipients must determine this one-time irrevocable election to utilize either the revenue loss formula or the standard allowances of up to the fund awarded and report this decision to the U.S. Treasury by April 30th of 2022. Information was presented at the February 15th, 2022 work session, including next steps of a decision on utilizing the revenue loss category. Today, your options are to elect to allocate the standard allowance of total recovery funds received by Todd County to the ARPA revenue loss category, or to elect to allocate a standard allowance of a set amount of recovery funds to the ARPA revenue loss category, which were not previously allocated to other eligible ARPA categories, or 3, do not allocate recovery funds to the ARPA recovery revenue loss category and continue utilizing the remaining eligibility use categories for the use of ARPA funds. It is the recommendation of the Finance Committee to elect the allocated standard allowance of total recovery funds received by Todd County to the ARPA SLFRF revenue loss category.
Okay, you've heard the board action in regards to the ARPA funds. I'm not gonna do all the other slurl after that, but with the 3 different options of how to designate use of the ARPA funds, with the recommendation coming from the Finance Committee as to use with the option 1. Am I saying that correct?
Correct.
And I would entertain a motion with any of the options.
So move with option 1.
Okay, we have a motion for option 1 from Newman.
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion?
Denise, can you just explain that? It gives us more freedom of how we're actually being able
Right, now,
to spend the
with the
dollars?
final rule that came through, anybody that received the under 10 million can take the whole amount and lump it into revenue loss category with using and utilizing it for government services. What it does is it streamlines our reporting, and we will still be doing the checks and balances. The money is still earmarked in the ARPA funds, so we'll still be transparent. We'll dot all the i's, cross all the t's. Everything will be categorized yet, but only at a county level. I think what happened was after the CARES money went through and the feds realized how much reporting they demanded of us, now this money coming around, they're saying, let's take an easier option so they don't have all the reporting on their end. So this makes it very streamlined, flexible. We can utilize it for government services. It's a win-win for the counties, especially those that received under the 10 million that are able to do this.
And I have one more question, and maybe Chris can answer this. Township-wise, do they have to do the same motions as we're doing to be able to move their funds to this, or how do the townships do it?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Becker, the townships and cities were all notified of the same option of the revenue loss, and they could take action as well to do the revenue
They would
loss.
need to take action as such as a motion to do this, or?
They could take action at their board meetings. When I talk with other counties, again, this is very loose in what is required to make these revenue loss. I mean, the counties are doing all different kinds of things. Some counties are passing resolutions stating they're going to take the revenue loss. Some counties are not taking any action to do the revenue loss. We're trying to do the best we can with trying to define how are we using the funds. So what I suggested to the townships and the cities is that they have that month of March during their meeting times to make that statement if they choose to use the revenue loss. But they've all been notified.
They have been. Very good, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Actually, I'm happy to see the government, as Big Brother said, there's going to loosen up the rules for us. but, we're still using our own tax dollars to utilize our losses, because it is tax dollars being utilized here. Where's the end of all this crap? We've been taking money hand over fist from the federal government, and of course, the last time they had all kind of rules. Now this time you say they issued the final rule. I'd be happy to see when that final rule is final, because they change as the flow goes. But to me, where do we stop and when do we end this taking money like this? This is $4 million. What did we receive in CARE money?
I believe it was 3.1 million, I'm just
So-
taking a guess
So
at
we're getting
that.
close to 10 million total when we get all done here, and who knows what's next. But, you know, yeah, we all like getting free money, but sooner or later, it's gotta be paid back someplace. So I just caution us to jump into this head over heels to say, oh, we just love getting all this money. And I'd love to get all this money in my checkbook too, but sooner or later, somebody's gonna have to pay this all back. And, I think we should be slowing down our readiness to accept all this money. I think we just need to caution ourselves here, because I don't know what the payback is gonna be for counties and cities and townships later on. Who knows what's coming around the corner? It's nice to get free money, but guys, there's always attachment. The last time what peed me off was they audited us to death and set up these rules that you couldn't hardly figure out by the end of the day. And now they kind of come to, somebody woke up and said, well, we'll just let them spend it how they like. That's kind of a little scary to me, because down the road, somebody's gonna say, well, we're gonna audit you, but you weren't supposed to do this, you weren't supposed to do that.
Well, there's
So-
still guidelines that we
Yeah, I
will
know.
follow.
I know.
Yeah, there's still guidelines set up in the final ruling.
So
It's just,
I'm just saying, we need to use caution here when we jump into this, accepting all this money, so.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kircher, if I can clarify a little bit, we already received the money back in September, so we already accepted it, and if we would not have accepted it, they would have redistributed the funds, and this is really just changing what we can do with the funds, not the fact that we've already, I mean, we've already received them.
I know the check was in the mail already, but I'm just saying, I just caution the board here. We need to use a little caution here, because these little carrots are, well, these are big carrots floating around out there for us to grab a hold of. And all of a sudden, when the carrot's gone, where are we sitting? So, not that I'm gonna vote no, but I'm just saying, guys, we need to be careful here, so.
Any other discussion? I had a motion and a second on that, correct?
you did.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried.
The next board action then following that is our ARPA SLFRF amend existing project obligation categorization for reporting. The U.S. Treasury has adopted their final rule on January 6th of 2022 for the use of the ARPA funds. Todd County may choose to elect for a standard deduction of funds into the revenue loss category, which allows for greater flexibility in the use of these funds for government services. If Todd County elects for the standard deduction of revenue loss, the county may also choose to amend the existing project obligation categorization under ARPA to be assigned to the revenue loss government services category. Your options are to amend the categorization of the existing ARPA project obligations to be allocated under the revenue loss government service category, or do not amend the categorization of the existing ARPA project obligations. It is the recommendation of the Finance Committee to amend the categorization of the existing ARPA project obligations to be allocated under the revenue loss service category per the attached list. And this is the list that we had already made obligations to. And what we're doing in this board action is simplifying that, yes, we're still committed to doing these obligations, but if we amend the agenda that we had, our motion that we had previously, then we can list these all under that revenue loss category and simplify the reporting. So we're not backing out of these obligations, we're just saying we're going to amend that to make this all part of that revenue loss.
Just for clarification, Denise, do we need, or were these all done by motion? I mean, when you're saying amend, do we have to go back and amend?
Well, we're amending the existing, where we had listed that we were gonna categorize these, and that was the step we were doing in the first round of our ruling. But now, since this final ruling came through,
So we are just amending the categorizing of them?
categorizing of it, yes.
Okay. All right, so you've heard the board action in regards to amending the existing project obligations.
Could we scroll
Sure.
up again?
And we're already committed to the list of,
Right, because these already have, you can see it says what it is, and then it says
Yep.
the board action that was taken. So we had taken board action to do these under the ARPA fund when we thought we had to categorize them.
right,
So we're still doing them by that board action, but we're just amending that we don't need to. We're gonna put them all under revenue loss,
These were expenses that already occurred, actually, and were
Yes.
tracked.
and we're tracking them, yes.
Okay, I would entertain a motion for the board action to amend the categorization of the ARPA funds for projects listed.
I will make that motion.
Motion by Becker, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Facilities Committee.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Mitch.
So I have one item on the agenda. It is, the topic is the Annex 2 new rooftops and air handling equipment. The background on this is the Facilities Committee is recommending replacement of the Annex 2 rooftop units and air handling equipment due to the age. We are utilizing we are using Johnson Controls through the utilization of Sourcewell for a total of $273,360 without the alternate price. The options are to accept the Johnson Controls bid through Sourcewell for a total of $273,360. Option 2 is to accept the Johnson Control bid with alternate for a total of $371,993. Or do not accept, or do not approve requests. The recommendation is to accept the Johnson Controls bid through Sourcewell for a total of $273,360 for the Annex 2 rooftop units and air handling equipment. And you can see the financial implications and the funding source. So to just touch base on a little bit of the alternate option is to upgrade the low voltage control issues we have, or I shouldn't say the system we have. I feel it takes a little bit away from my staff and myself on what we can accomplish ourselves internally. So that's why the recommendation is to only go with the option 1 instead of option 2, if that helps.
If I could, Mr. Chair. I think during facilities, we had this discussion, and I thought, I brought it up about, we're going to do the roofs.
Yep.
And this takes 50 weeks
Yeah.
to receive this equipment.
Yep.
But you're confident or whatever, it will not harm the roofing we're putting down now?
Correct, absolutely. We will take every precautionary measure to ensure that the new roof that we put on will be safe. The one option in here with the 3 rooftops that are going to be replaced, those are not at 50 weeks. The option that's at 50 weeks is the air handling unit. That is a 24-ton air handling unit. That is taking the full 50 weeks. The other 3 units are anywhere from 20 to 30 weeks. So there is a very good chance that as we replace that roof, we can do those 3 rooftops, which will also minimize the amount of traffic on the new roof as well. The nice thing is about the new roof that we passed in, I think it was the last board meeting, is we'll be able to see anything. So if there is an accidental damage, we will be able to hold somebody accountable for something that happens. But yes, we will take every precautionary measure to ensure that we keep our new products safe.
Okay, and the other comment I would like to make is these are units that are very old, they're outdated, they need to
Correct.
be replaced.
Yep.
We're replacing these units with ARPA
ARPA funding, yes,
and
correct.
not having to use tax dollars to replace
Correct.
this at this point. So it's spending ARPA dollars on something we would originally have to do tax dollars for.
Absolutely. So for two reasons. One, with the new code and the recommendations from the CDC and the guidelines of the new air that is required, or new makeup air that is required in the buildings, these new units are capable of doing that. The old units were not. The air handling unit is from 1979, which is fairly substantially outdated. And the rooftop units are from the early 90s, which are at the end or past the end of their life expectancy as well. So yes, we're not replacing something that is working. We are replacing something that we've had trouble with in the past and makes more financial sense to replace and not fix, if that makes sense.
Any other discussion, questions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
A motion for option one, correct?
Yep.
By Kneisel. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Becker. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. Solid waste. Good morning, Chris.
Morning, Chair. I have three board actions for you today. The first one is up on the screen, solid waste management tax resolution. Well, I'll read the background. The state of Minnesota generates approximately $90 million in revenue from its solid waste management tax. Less than $20 million is shared with the Minnesota counties. Approximately $30 million is put into the state's general fund. The Association of Minnesota Counties 2022 State Legislative Policy Position states AMC supports allocating 100% of the revenue generated by the solid waste management tax to state and county product stewardship, household hazardous waste, and other management activities. The attached resolution supports recently drafted bills, House File 2367 and Senate File 1531, regarding solid waste management tax, provided that the funds are dedicated to counties through SCORE grants. If I could, I'll just add, there's kind of a movement right now within the counties to advocate for this, and this has been on the, I'll call it the priority list for quite a few years. It has significance to all the counties. I haven't done any super accurate calculations, but currently you receive about $70,000 each year of, we call it SCORE grant money, but that money actually comes from this. If these bills were to be approved as proposed, that amount of money would more than double that you receive, so each year. So that's more than $70,000 a year of increased, I'll call it subsidy for the recycling programs. And that money is essentially money that the state is taking from your taxpayers in this county, and they're using it for things like the general fund. While if you look at the name and the intent of the tax was solid waste management. And so we're trying to advocate for that money that they're taxing your citizens to be used to benefit your community.
Mr. Chair. Chris, how much is that? Todd County's tax that goes to the state,
I've played with the numbers before, and the tax is kind of complicated, but I'm gonna say it's in the neighborhood of $300,000. And I'm shooting from the hip there, but it's a significant amount of money.
Mr. Chair, 20 million and 30 million add up to 50 million. Where is the other 40 million?
The other 40 million is still being spent elsewhere. The elsewhere is called the environmental fund within the MPCA, and that money is not dedicated to solid waste management either.
So actually, whoever's getting the 40 million gets more than the counties.
I'm sorry.
Well, the 40 million is out there, you said going to MPCA or whatever, so they're actually getting more than the counties are getting, because we
That's-
only get 20 million.
That's correct, and if the MPCA would be here, I'm sure they would say that some of that environmental fund money is going back to the counties, but it's through their discretion as they see fit. And, you know,
Yeah.
Whereas the 30 million we're talking about is plainly not coming back here.
that's correct. That, you get a check every year. We do have an agreement with the state on that we're promising that money is spent for the purpose of continuing a recycling program. But it's generally quite hands-off. It's at your judgment how to spend that best in your community.
Do you have the resolution attached? Do you want to scroll up? I don't know if there's, yeah. So we have heard the board action in regards to the waste management tax revenue funding, and then this is the attached resolution. And so I would entertain a motion with the appropriate option.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Kneisel for option, I believe it's 1, is it not?
Yes.
Just wanted to be clear on that. Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Second by Kircher. More discussion?
There, Chris, why are they only asking for 30%?
Well, I believe that it would be very reasonable to ask for more, but we've been doing this for 10 years generally, and as I've spoken to the AMC lobbyist, Brian Martinson, in the past, as I've spoken with Senator Ingebretson, who has authored a previous bill similar to this, don't give up good waiting for best. This would be a tremendous advancement for us, and Brian Martinson sees this isn't an easy ask. And so if we got this, you look at $70,000, $100,000 more per year, that's a tremendous position to take. When I testified to the Senate committee, I think it's Environment or Finance Committee, on this a couple of years ago, the MPCA representative walked by me in the committee room and said, "You're not getting all of it. We need to have some of that money too." And, so there's a lot of competing voices out there.
You're not gonna get it from the environmental fund.
Well, I understand your analogy, but I guess it's always been my philosophy is you start high and negotiate down.
Sure.
So if it comes in at 30%, they're gonna negotiate this down. Now, I understand your analogies, something's better than nothing, but even so, there's a lot of money sitting out here that should be coming back to the counties.
I serve at your service, so if you decided to add a statement to that resolution that says it should be all of this, I can completely understand your position.
Any other discussion? Okay, we had a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
There's quite a few counties that are doing this resolution.
That's okay. Carried. Agreed.
Mr. Chair, this board action form is for the film plastic rental and service agreement. I'll just read the background. Todd County has partnered with Wadena and Ottertail counties to sustain a film plastic collection program. The three counties have used $232,000 of grant funding to reduce costs for purchasing a front load packer truck and collecting recyclable film plastics generated by agricultural practices and boat wrap for winter boat storage. The grant included money to purchase additional containers to allow additional farms and boat wrap businesses to join the program. To continue the program, the Solid Waste Department recommends that all existing and interested participants in the program sign the attached film plastic rental and service agreement. It establishes general conditions including cost for use of the county-owned container and collection fees.
Okay, you've seen the board action in regards to the film plastic rental and service agreement. Look for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I add one thing that we didn't include in this, and I received a comment from the Ottertail County attorney on the last page of the agreement, if we could scroll to that. Is there one more page?
No.
There's not.
No,
So
sorry.
there was an additional page that was like a, I should have brought it with me, but it was just a visual for people to see what's acceptable and unacceptable products. Is it possible that that could be added through that approval, that they would include that in this agreement?
Yeah, they don't want baler twine and net wrap mixed in with this plastic. And
So the insert you would be attaching to this contract is just a visual
That's
to show
correct.
the farmers, this is the products that are acceptable, these are the products that are not.
That's
That's
correct.
what he's asking to amend to that contract.
And I apologize, I should have brought that visual with.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I don't know if that's necessary here, but when you publish that in the papers and stuff, yeah, I think that covers it, so.
Okay.
all right, so we would look for a motion to approve the film plastic rental and service agreement with the addition of adding a visual attachment that goes along with it.
so move. Second. Whatever.
So moved by Newman, seconded by Kneisel. Further discussion?
Yeah, I do. The cost to the farmer or to the boat person, what's going to be that cost? I see in here, as I was reading, it's going to be zero. Is that continuing on, or what, where's that heading?
So the messaging that we've given and discussed with the board previously in the Solid Waste Committee was, as we started up the program, we are performing that service free of charge.
Yep.
But we've also communicated through correspondence with the residents that, we recently received a grant and things to help get this started, but we expect, once we've got a year of operation under our belt and have the actual numbers for the cost, they should plan on us coming back to them and looking at paying for some of that cost.
Will that come back to the boards for approval, or will that be done within your own? It'll come back to the county board for approval.
And each individual county will make their own decision how much they want to share in the cost or not share in the cost. And each of the counties can do it however they want.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Becker, that's outlined in number, is it 2?
I've got it right here. Yes, it is.
Yep.
It's
So-
2.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Mr. Chair, the last board action I have to share with you is the engineering services agreement for landfill construction. So for your facility, you have about roughly 10 years of airspace left in your permit. So there's land dedicated and space for disposal. However, we haven't actually dug the hole yet. And generally, that has to be done with the assistance of a engineer and a contractor. And the engineer has to certify that and get the state's approval. And so I've been discussing this with Widseth, who has been the county's engineer for our landfill for quite some time. And I can read the description here, but we need the airspace quite soon, like we need it in this year. So I'm coming before you to ask for that. The background here reads, the demolition landfill needs to be expanded in order to receive more demolition waste in 2022. The attached proposal from Widseth is for $29,949. It is for design, bidding, and construction documentation and construction administration assistance for this project. The project will provide approximately 8 to 12 years of additional disposal capacity. The scope of services also includes some pre-design efforts for future final cover construction on the areas of the landfill that are, that was spelled wrong, that are full.
Okay, you've seen the board action in regards to the engineering services for the landfill construction. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Standing reports, auditor, treasurer.
I think we're in month of March now, just prepping for tax calculation and getting tax statements printed. Also, we're prepping for annual audit, will be the last week of March. And I just want to take this time to thank Coordinator Pelzer and Chief Deputy Auditor Treasurer Jolene Sabrowski and the Finance Committee for coming through at the last board meeting, as I was called away to the MACO conference a day earlier than I anticipated. So I just want to thank them for educating the board on all this ARPA final ruling and revenue loss, and educating the board on that last meeting. And the Finance Committee also, I want to thank them for always being available to meet on a moment's notice, because it helps everybody get a little more educated on all this state stuff, federal stuff. So thank you for that.
Okay. Commissioners?
Yes, if I could. We had a ride on the Rainbow Rider bus, and I'm sure Chris was there and Randy was there, so I'll let them speak on it a little bit more. But we went around town, seen some of the close parking areas or turning around areas. Both Brenda and Tom were here and explained the number of rides and so forth that Todd County are using now. The other thing I'd like to mention is Friday morning I had a meeting with the regional EMS, and we had a conversation about the opioid money coming back to the counties and how the region is looking. There will be more to come on that, so probably at a work session or so, maybe next meeting. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? County Coordinator?
Mr. Chair, just a reminder that we do have representatives posted in Crescia scheduled for April 19th, tentatively at the work session on that day. And I will be getting message out to department heads as well on that.
All right. Anything else? Otherwise, we will recess until March 15th. And we will start our work session in 5 to 7 minutes or so. Time is 10:27. First on the work session agenda is Financial Services Supervisor. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Lisa's handing out some handouts for you, for your review around the position. But what we're here today is just for initial discussion of adding a full-time financial services supervisor under Lisa's supervision and in with partnering with Laura at the same level. So at this point, Lisa will get into the details and go through the handouts, but just to kind of give you some background, COVID hasn't helped the situation that we're in with the amount of employees and programs that we have under Lisa's unit. It's only added. So we're here today to ask for an additional FTE. We've been to personnel and they advised us to come here, work session, because that's what the process is. We do not have it budgeted for 2022, but can hope to be able to budget it for 2023. But what we're needing is to asking and needing is to fill, if with approval, the position once it goes to board. But I'll let Lisa take it over from here.
Good morning. So the first organizational chart is our current structure right now. So as you can see, there's the manager, and then to the left is Laura and the staff that she supervises, child support, and she is currently taking over the METS eligibility workers. And then the right side, the next two columns are the staff that I directly supervise currently. So it's gets to be a lot, again, with the vast amount of policy. Each program has its own set of rules and policies. We definitely could use another supervisor to take over some of those staff so that we can give them better direction and the support that they need to complete their work. So
Currently, Lisa supervises 26 or 27?
in the unit,
Yeah, total. It's under you.
29,
29.
well, 28, I guess I'm listed there myself.
And then we have Laura that directly supervises 10. So, I think that alone, those numbers will share with you the workload that Lisa and Laura have with those direct reports. The programs that are listed on the organizational chart at the top, it says current organizational chart, currently. Those are the programs that we provide as a county under the financial services unit alone.
Yep, and again, each program comes with its own set of rules, so it does get to be a lot. The second proposed organizational chart is the second handout that you have, and that's adding the additional financial support services supervisor, basically that middle column that would take over some of those programs and or people and some of the programs, which would, less, we have, with 19 people to directly supervise, you spend a lot of your time on requests for time off, those kinds of things that aren't even directly related to program implementation. So that will ease some of that having that additional supervisor so that there's more time that can be spent on supporting the workers, training, doing supervisory case reviews, which is becoming increasingly important with the policy and the changes that are constantly happening. COVID certainly, as Jackie said, certainly didn't help. You know, not only did all these programs have their own set of rules, but then during COVID, those rules all changed, and each one of them again had their own set of waivers and things that we needed to try to keep straight. So again, it didn't create the need for this position, but it did add to the difficulty of getting the work done. And then the third handout just gives you a breakdown of what our current staff is in the unit. The programs, again, which we implement within our unit. And then the second page shows what our current caseloads are. And some of these could be duplicated because, you know, we could have households on more than one program. But again, doesn't make it easier. You have each program, again, has its own eligibility determination and its own set of policy that we need to follow. So some of the programs don't have individual numbers available, so I was not able to include that for energy assistance and for child support. Another duty that I have is being the security liaison for system security. So when as workers new workers come in, they need security to work in any of the state programs, or existing workers change jobs, or they, you know, change duties. They need different security to complete those new tasks. That comes to me. Those programs or those systems are also listed, so it's quite time consuming. You know, when I started as security liaison, we maybe had 5 systems total, and
Now we're up to
just
21.
yeah, just like everything else, it's snowballed. So I am anticipating 2 retirements in the near future. Both workers are already eligible, so we have 4 staff that are 2 that are just over a year, and then we have 2 brand new people. So we have you know, a good majority of or not majority, but a good number, you know, a percentage that are still in training.
Our new eligibility worker that was approved, board approved, under ARPA, December?
I think it was even earlier than that.
Started today.
Probably been
So
6 months.
Kind of shows that lag that it takes. So we're really trying to do some strategic succession planning, knowing that we have these upcoming retirements, but not only in the general staff, but also possibly in our leadership team. So it takes a year to train a new employee, and not even with the consideration of leadership as well. So which provides our training to these new individuals.
Mr. Chair, if I may, would this be a promotion to this position, and then you'd have to hire someone else in that category, which I was gonna ask, which Jackie just mentioned, is the training of a new employee takes up to a year. So if we were to react to this, and you got 2 retirements coming up, maybe, and does that include yourself?
Yes,
Okay.
me in addition.
Huh?
That doesn't, the 2 don't include me, but
It doesn't,
yes,
okay.
no.
So again, you're looking at a year's training for other people coming in, so it would be wise for us to move on this, I think, and because you're gonna have a lot of training time, so.
We are hopeful to see a promotion that, somebody within our department that is already there is interested. I had that magic ball on many things.
Yeah.
But that's what we're hopeful for, but yes, Commissioner.
How,
And then there'll be a domino.
how's your pool of candidates been?
It took us 3 rounds of posting to hire the last eligibility worker. That's why it took so long.
So there is on my part, and probably Lisa and Laura's, I can use a little bit of sense of urgency. Knowing that there's a lag, there's been a long lag.
And to me, supervision, which has been great by Lisa, but she's been over her head in supervising people. That's too many people.
I think there's quite a few things Lisa has said, could be done better, case reviews,
Right.
evaluations. I mean, when you're, it's a revolving door to her office, it's hard to get evaluations done or even do case reviews.
Yep.
Yep.
Putting us at risk. Putting us at risk if you're not doing everything that you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. Yep. Yes, and that's, again, the need for supervisory reviews because, we don't, then we end up in a corrective action plan and, that never is good for anyone, so
And it's just more
try
work.
to avoid that. It's more work, that's right. And the work, they're working as hard as they can and doing the best that they can. It's just that,
And our intakes have been,
yeah, we're still seeing double the applications since last September when unemployment ended
Well,
than what we have
if I may,
ever
Mr.
had.
Chair, too, I think with what's happening with the inflation, we're gonna see more people coming in wanting
Yeah.
help because of the prices skyrocketing and just their income is probably decreasing and if it can't maintain, so.
Right, the last time we saw numbers, application numbers similar to this was like 2009 when the economy was not so good then either. So, yeah, as Jackie said, this position was not budgeted for 2022, but will be included in the budget for 2023 and is eligible for the 50% reimbursement.
so, our fund balance is sitting well in Health and Human Services, so we could support within our budget, the additional 50%, because 50% would be covered, for that position if approved.
And,
If I could.
go ahead.
Jackie, when you said 50% of it would be covered by programs that you're working with the state, covered by outside funds.
Correct.
Yep, and for the year of 2022, you'd be lucky to be looking at a half a year anyways. So you're talking about half of a half is where you would actually have to come up with budget dollars for.
By the
Correct.
time we find somebody in the supervisory position, hoping that there's an internal promotion, it would be hard to convert them to that supervisor while there's still work to be done until we can get that new person, that domino effect. Like we said, those intakes are coming in at such a high rate. We have been allowing our eligibility workers to work additional hours to be able to get those applications processed in a timely fashion, because they can't continue at the rate they are, unfortunately, at 40 hours.
Any other questions, commissioners? What would you like to see?
Bring it back.
Bring it back.
Board?
Next board. Okay,
We act, the sooner you can get moving.
thank you.
Okay. All right.
Well, much like HHS was just here reporting, we are going to be asking for a staffing request as well from the Auditor Treasurer's Office. I have given you just a guideline of what we'll go over, what we've analyzed. The back sheet is just the packet I'm sure you've seen before. We've emailed it before via the Finance Committee and Personnel Committee. That's just for your reference. Today, the Auditor Treasurer's Office is seeking a .6 full-time permanent part-time position. This is a person that would have no benefits. In January of 2021, our 2/3 position was vacated, and that staff person went over to a full-time position over in the assessor's office. During that year of 2021, it was a non-election year, and we thought to better suit the county, even though that wage was fully funded in my budget, not knowing that this person was going to leave, we elected to just hold off and see if our office could manage without that position. And halfway through the year, it wasn't even a non-election year, and we already realized that that 2/3 position that was vacated was detrimental to just our daily intake, phones, counters, just the general office work that needs to be done on a daily basis was being somewhat neglected. And so in the mid-year, when we were doing finance, we had approached the Finance Committee about taking that full wage that we had and making it a part-time to be dedicated full-time to the Auditor Treasurer's Office. And so Finance did recommend us budgeting for that .6 position with no benefits, and so we have that in the budget. And then as we moved into the year, we went to personnel with that, and we also notated that, yes, this is a non-election year, we're gonna see how we can go. But seeing the CARES money that came through, and now the ARPA money that's coming through, as well as the big election of 2022 that'll come this fall, the demand is just too high to not fulfill this position. The need and the workload is there. Our office was requesting to both finance and personnel. We came back again this January of 2022, anticipating what the workload's gonna be more than last year. And then in January, the personnel asked us to come back in February, and we did. And from that meeting, they knew that this was a standalone position that we were requesting. And they recommended that we come before a work session to explain to the full board in case you would have questions, ideas, suggestions. Our office would like to invest in this position's knowledge and experience so that we can give professional work throughout the county services. This would be a phone at the counter. They need to be knowledgeable in our accounting side of it, our tax calc. There's a lot of aspects in our office that they need to know on a daily basis. And sometimes when we do these emergency hires just to help out during tax collection time, that's just a person sitting in there calculating and doing a daily tally total of taxes that came in. It's not getting into the meats and bones and the soup of the whole office to be beneficial. You can jump in anytime if you want. Our office figures this to be a cost savings, and the reason we say that is it is less than our 2/3 position, because of course now this is only a part-time permanent with no benefits. Also, it saves on our staffs. We've had 2 episodes where we had an individual in there for a full-time. They get trained for a year or so, and then they leave for a different position with an adjoining office. And so then there goes all the staff time my staff has done sitting for that year. Because in our office, the tax calculation year, it's a 3-year process. Your first year is acclimating to what's actually going on. The second year, you see it come around again, and you kind of put the pieces together and it falls in. And by the 3rd year, you're clicking and you're understanding, oh, this is why we did that. And that's why that's done now, because that's gonna come back in 3 months on a report to the state. Getting back to what HHS said, the state mandating and reporting has gotten unreal. What I did 10 years ago in the chief deputy position is nothing to what Jolene does now. It's just over inundated, and That's neither here nor there, but that's just the way of the world and the reporting that is involved. Other things to bring up is that this position is supported by federal funding through the cost allocation plan when it's utilized in a permanent position and has qualifying tax. Our cost allocation plan that Dennis Pond does for us does bring in federal dollars into the county revenue, and we're missing out on those by not having this position. This is not an increase to my overall budget. There is job duties that have been transitioned to our current deputy staff through the workload complexities that I had talked about in reporting. We definitely need support in tax calculation preparation, not to mention elections. These are two high-level examples. And I'm going to give a kind of a private synopsis of what happened this fall. And I can say it because it was me. I did go out with COVID and was out for 10 to 14 days, right in the middle of the TNT notices getting calculated, printed, and out the door. And unfortunately, I don't have the manpower or the staff that has been transitioned into learning those steps. So those two very complex job duties fall on me. And I can't control medical or getting COVID or not getting COVID. And the girls were just,
We were on pins and needles.
very devastated that I would make it back in time to get those out. And those are mandated things that have to go out. I don't know what would happen if that would ever have happened during a tax calculation in the month of March. That would be detrimental to the county because those tax statements have to be out by March 31st in order for the county to generate the revenue collected through taxes. So that was a very scary point this fall, and that's what made us to this point of we have to approach the board and move forward with some type of fulfillment with the board's recommendations or acceptance. Am I missing anything? Oh, this is a high importance too, the election world side of this. In 2020, we've seen an uptake from absentee voters, and everybody knows this, in 2018, our absentee voter request was approximately 1,200 AB voters. In 2022, that demand fourfolded to 4,100 absentee requests. We don't see this going away, even if COVID's tempered off. The reason being, the voters have seen the convenience of it, and they are able to do it without any requirements now. So that's never going away. It's something of a convenience, and what happens when you have convenience? It comes at a cost. And we're gonna see that without this 2/3 position, we're gonna see an uptake in our overtime. I gave some stats on here too. In 2022, to weather the election storm, we had our 2/3 position. We paid $8,000 in overtime just to our regular staff, just to meet the demands of that election. In addition, we had a Doherty workforce employee that came in that we paid $5,600 just to cover that time period, and that was with our 2/3. I'm very, very, very scared of what is going to happen this fall during the general election with not having that position. And we don't have a Doherty staff person, and Doherty was fine in this category. We've had other workforce employees that they can't bring the knowledge in, so they can basically do folding, stuffing envelopes. You don't always get the high level of knowledge in that avenue. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And I guess, I don't know, Jolene, if you have anything to add, otherwise we're just looking for direction or support or ideas from the board on which you wish us to do on this. Like I said, I've been to finance, I've been to personnel. I've given the presentation of what used to be our criteria of, warranting the staff, the justification, the need. Do you have anything to add? I don't know.
Just the thought that our busy seasons are nearing very soon. Tax collection season will be upon us more heavily in a month and a half's time. Ramping up, we'd like to get the person acclimated to that, hopefully first. and then be a little bit more comfortable with that, so by the time the fall comes, they can dive deeper into the election support as well, and not be learning two high demanding tasks in high seasons.
The other thing that brought to mind was when we talk about where is the economy going, we are seeing more and more of that in our office with people not being able to pay their taxes. So they're approaching us on payment plans, confession of judgments. We're going to probably see tax forfeitures because our phone calls have been gone up of what are our taxes gonna do? We're in a crisis situation, we can't afford to pay them. I don't wanna lose the place, but what can I do? With those demands come more job duties. Becky herself is seeing an uptake in people that are signing up for confession of judgment, signing up for a payment plan, trying to find some reprieve to what's probably going to come even worse as we see prices go up, inflation, people can't afford to pay certain bills, so then they let certain bills go. Yeah, and then with the busy season coming, like they just noted prior to us presenting, look how long it took them to get a position filled, 6 months. We're gonna be in the heat of preparing for election season, getting AB ballots out, things like that, so the uptick is coming. So we just look for recommendations from the board on what to do next. We look for the support of the board to give us guidance and direction, just to better serve our taxpayers and our communities.
Questions, commissioners?
Could you tell me the hourly wage here? I'm trying to figure that out.
Is that a quick draw?
I don't know if I do.
Well, it would be an AT deputy, step 1,
Grade 8.
grade 8, yeah.
You have, what?
2377 on the 2022 salary.
2277?
23.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, you got, I was trying to figure it myself, it comes to 35, you're stating a $35,000 salary here. Is that right?
Yes, from the former
Presentation.
full FTE that was in our budget for the previous position.
Okay, and that comes to, the 2377 comes to 35,000, is that? The .6 throws me off, so I don't know how many hours that is per year.
26 hours a week. I don't have a
24.
calculator.
Mr.
24 hours
Chair,
a week.
Commissioner Kircher, it just needs to be below the 30 hours per week.
So that they don't get insurance benefits or any benefits.
On average.
Or we'd be willing to open up a full-time position and supplement ARPA funding. We could look at that too. That's another option. Half ARPA, half.
What is it sustainable then after the ARPA funding is out?
It potentially could be because we had a full-time position in there, or 2/3. That was out of my budget prior to that. That was, at that time in 2021, an $82,000 position. And like I said, this is federally funded somewhat through the cost allocation that we're not receiving right now because we can't report a person there. So we're missing out on those cost allocation plan funds.
I think maybe I'd want to just be a little careful with using federal funds if this brings in federal funds, or is that not an issue?
That wouldn't be an issue, because that's the same as, it's the same cost allocation that the HHS, that we talked to Jenna about.
Okay.
So, yes, that is correct, and at least notating that.
Mr. Chair, my concerns are, and I've talked to Denise about this, is out in solid waste. We have a $4.1 million new facility coming in there. That's gonna put a little bit more pressure on your office to oversee some of that. We just hired a new supervisor out there. He might need some help as far as the budgeting process and getting his I's and T's. So I think there's a need in your office because we're just gonna continue to put more and more pressure on the auditor treasurer's office. And then with the ARPA funds, that's another issue. You know,
That's correct, and
the
that-
committees haven't even started yet for the ARPA stuff, and once the committees start, and we start pounding on you about,
And just to
funding.
clarify that ARPA, even though we take the loss allocation plan that you did today, which is great, we still have all of our reporting on our side that we have to do. That doesn't go away just by taking the easier method. So we
Right.
still have all that transparency and documentation and reporting and auditing side of it that we'll still have to do as a requirement.
and then we
So
have
that's
the,
not gonna lessen either, no.
right, then we have the group out there that is watching our elections very closely, so that's another concern, and it's like,
Yes, Commissioner Newman, our goal is to invest more training time in all of our deputies to be even more deeply knowledgeable in the election processes from beginning to end, to safeguard the process as best we can here for Todd County.
right, because the people out there that are questioning the election need to educate themselves more on Todd County's election.
Correct.
And not so much the state, because we have no control over the state.
And unfortunately, with the positions we hold in the office, and Coordinator Pelzer knows too, all these demands always require webinars, Zoom meetings. So what we would normally be doing in a day workload, now we're finding our time is getting spent, okay, now we have an hour Zoom with the feds on NACO ARPA, and then it's cybersecurity with elections. That could be an hour to a 2-hour meeting. And you can't miss these because that's all the information that you need to do your job. So those demands are increasing on our plate loads, which then we try to shift the duties down to our staff, which is numbered and limited. And the other problem I have is I do have several that are long-term employees as well. And so they're not getting to get all of their dedicated time off that they're entitled to. Because
Right.
there's just not enough hours in the day or people to do the workload, which
And
is
that-
unfortunate.
And some of that includes CPT, which we are an invested member of, counties providing technology.
Yes.
We're invested in, and there's individuals in your office that have to deal with that.
That's
And
correct.
again, they've been on Zoom, or if you got any questions, it takes time to get those questions answered.
Exactly.
But Mr. Chair, I mean, and I think both Denise and Chris can chime in, is that this CARES Act was audited, and there will be auditing coming with the ARPA funds and so forth. So it's just not like it's done when the money's gone. This is an ongoing process.
That's very correct, Commissioner Becker. With the ARPA, now we're gonna see a 4-year lag. And so we're gonna have to track all of that and be mindful of that as well moving forward with each audit.
And also, if I may, the complexities and the responsibility of our office to continually monitor all of the county's funds, transactions, to be prepared for audits, to track trends of revenues and expenses, for the budget outlooks and things like that is also becoming much more complex and deserves to have the fair attention of our staff's time for the health of the county as well, which is hard to accomplish.
Any other questions, commissioners? So just for clarification, and it states in here, and I think I heard you say it, but this is already able to be covered by your existing budget, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else? Wishes of the board?
I think we should bring it to the next commissioners meeting.
Bring it forward to the next board meeting?
And if you have any questions in between that, just give our office a call. Jolene or myself will answer anything we can for you. Thank you for your time.
All righty. That will end